Malcontent News is a team of journalists, activists, and researchers with three key missions. A commitment to show an unfiltered view of the before, during, and after of key events, live, as it happens. To defend the First Amendment using our rights of a free press. And to amplify the voices of underrepresented individuals including Black, Indigenous, persons of color, and the LGBTQIA+ community. Our team is committed to seeking equality for all and holding those in power accountable. The easiest way to support Malcontent News is to bookmark our website at malcontentnews.com, like and follow us on Facebook, subscribe to us on YouTube, and follow us on Twitter, TikTok, Twitch, Instagram, and in the Google News app. To provide financial support, you can become a patron, make a one-time donation through Venmo, or link your Twitch account to your Amazon Prime account and use your free subscription to subscribe to Malcontent News. Thank you for supporting independent journalism and for being a malcontent. Oh, you can quote me on that. Oh my God, it's just been panic. It has just been like panic for the last 90 minutes to get this out. Hey, Courtney, how's everybody going? How's it all going tonight, Malcontents? I'm going to try and keep this short. I have like no voice. I have no water. Rashi's in the house. Mama Kay's in the house. Joy's in the house. I guess everybody's not here because we were so late. There's a lot to cover. We got an exclusive story. Exclusive. And I'm just going to go ahead and dive into it. We're not going to have any chitty chatty here. We are just going to roll. So let's talk about what's going on in Washington State. We'll start with a COVID update. Number of new cases have settled in at a new plateau. We're pretty consistent right now between like 480 and 490, and that's about where it's bouncing around. Yeah, it's better than 500 to 535. It's still not good, and it's not sustainable at that rate. If we do our comparison of the South Central Hospital region, that is the most stressed region, but it's fast approaching maybe not the most stressed region. The East region, which would include Spokane, is getting really, really close to bypassing the South Central region. Their number of COVID cases per 100,000, 833.4. That's actually a pretty good drop from over the weekend. We will see tomorrow how much impact Labor Day had in depressing numbers, because tomorrow, the Labor Day weekend, the last day, which is Monday, when tests would be really low, all that's going to drop out on that 14-day average. So we'll see what happens there. I have nothing in the tea leaves. We could speed lamp plateau. It could go up. It could go down. I don't know anything. You know what I know. If we compare that 833.4 to King County 295.1, which was basically unchanged. So we don't have the gap that we saw on Friday, where the South Central Hospital region was almost at 900. They were like 888. And King County was at 290. That's compressed, but we continue to see this big delta between those counties. If we do the analysis of the counties that are 50% vaccinated or better, The average for 14-day went up. It's 521.1. One of the reasons it went up is there was a county that was below 50%, and it moved up to 50%. And the cases are pretty high in that county, and so that pulled it overall average down. For counties that are 40% to 49.99% vaccinated, they're at 75.3.6 cases per 100,000 people. That is essentially unchanged. And for counties from 28.1, that's the basement. Stevens County, 21.1% of the total population is vaccinated, to 39.99%, which is 9 counties. They're at 806.4, which was a significant increase. You know, people are just, it's not unvaccinated people. Yeah, it is. Like the numbers don't lie. All right. So statewide, again, the rolling average was 489 and change. Lincoln County, it's go big or go home with COVID in Lincoln County. 1,502.3 new cases per 100,000 people. I seem to remember that I've seen numbers at county level like up to about 1525 or 1530, but I don't think I've ever seen anything. I can't remember ever seeing anything over 1550. Keep up the good work, Lincoln County, he says sarcastically. Counties that are between 1,000 and just under 1,400, 1399.9, are Franklin and Stevens. Who'd have thought? And there's a long list of counties that I'm not going to read. It'd be like I'm friggin' on doing the school closing announcements. If you're a millennial or Gen X and you lived in an area where it snowed, or boomer, you know just what I'm talking about. If you're Gen Z, you're like, what school closing? And what? They used to announce, yeah, we used to like run downstairs and turn on the TV or the radio and be like, is there no school? Is there no school? Is there no school? Oh. John Hopkins Washington State overview data is continuing for the 30-day average for the 7-day rolling average is reporting garbage. They're saying the report indicates that Washington State is at 24.16% positive for new COVID cases, or among COVID tests, I should say, over the last 7 days. And I'm like, no, I don't believe it. There's something wrong with that number. And that number has remained unchanged now for 4 days. So I think there's a reporting issue. The 7-day, the 30-day rolling average is at 15%. But now that we have 4 days in a row at 24.16, I think that number is sus. And I don't think we're at 15.09. Pediatric and adolescent cases, they increased again. Wow, what a shock. All the kids are back in school across the state. Hospitalizations are up again for children from birth to 11 years old. They dropped for adolescents 12 to 19 years old. But remember, when I say they're up, in the big scheme of things, the relative number of pediatric patients remains, certainly compared to adults, remains low. We continue to have no guidance from the Washington State Hospital Association or the Washington State Department of Health on NICU, PICU, and acute care for pediatric patients. We ask, they say it's coming. I'm just bringing it up. Right now, most of the new COVID cases are being driven in the state of Washington by people who are under 50 years old. What a shock. Gen Z, I really love you, but y'all got to step up your vaccination game. The Gen, like the vax numbers for 20 to 34 are in the toilet. So come on, Gen Z, step up. It's just the needle. The hospitalization numbers have gone down. I'm going to get in a little bit later on why it's not as good as it sounds. Anyway, we've beat all of that to death, and I see your comments going by. It's just I'm trying to roll with this, but I'll stop for a minute and say my hello. I I turned that Dutch Reformed is basically a form of Calvinism. Oh, wow. Someone looked that up. I've never looked it up. So thank you in the comments for that, Stephanie. Got Rebecca and Ursinate and Descent 4, Dora and Shelly and Wendy. And oh my God, Info Pigs in the house. We just need like Barb and Ian, and it would be amazing. All right, let's keep rolling. Governor Inslee has formally requested federal assistance to support Washington hospitals. The governor sent a letter to Jeffrey Zentz. I hope I'm saying his name right. He is the response coordinator for the federal government for COVID. And we have asked for Department of Defense resources to come in and prop up hospitals. These are typically called federal strike teams. They generally comprise of like 20 or 30 people, and they generally comprise of both clinical and non-clinical staff. I look at the numbers, and I'm like, I don't know what to think. It's a mixed bag. You know, it's kind of like looking at the stock market today, right? If you looked at the stock market, you're like, oh my God, if you care about the stock market. But on the other side of the coin, the stock market took a big shit today because of something that's going on in China. They have like their own Lehman Brothers thing. And is it really going to, like, are we exposed? Like, is our economy? No, it's really not. But people are panicking, right? So it's like a mixed bag, right? You're looking at that and you're like, so are we going back to 2008 now? We're going to have that too? We're going to have COVID and banks collapsing? So, right. And the answer to that is no. But anyway, it's a mixed bag. It's the same thing with the COVID data. I guess that was a really crappy analogy. Now everyone's like, the economy's going to die? No. Must save economy. There was a headline. I didn't put it in the story. There was a headline I saw last night. This is like peak capital. Seriously. Da, 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 da. Okay, that's my Russian national anthem. Seize the means of production. Seriously, this is peak capitalism. What the headline was, investors are very disappointed because some company that was making medical gloves that was just making, ka-ching, ka-ching, ka-ching. Yeah, so medical glove sales were down, and so investors were disappointed that the surge of COVID cases globally, is starting to slow down, and the glove sales are going down. What a gross headline. Damn, not as many people are dying, so we can't sell as many gloves. And again, that's global, not necessarily the United States. They're asking for the resources because hospitals are, and everyone's like, see, they're understaffed because vaccine mandates. They're understaffed because the hospital's been understaffed for years. People have been quitting for years. The patient to doctor, patient to nurse ratios have been dangerous for years, and they've only been getting worse, and pay is stagnant. And a lot of these medical professionals have watched people unnecessarily die for close to a year now, and have protesters outside their doors and get shit on in social media. And a lot of them have what's called compassion burnout. They're cooked, they're done, and they're quitting. And that's all there is to it. There's a TikTok I saw. If I had more time in this story, I was going to post it in. It's a TikTok creator. She's a doctor. And she works with OBGYN patients, does all this stuff on COVID. She did a video just crying hysterically in her car last night. She is completely broken, just broken. She's done. She's just done. She just totally reached. And that's not the only video that I've seen like that. I wanted to add it tonight. We didn't have the time. Maybe we'll drop it in tomorrow. Let's get to the exclusive story. We got an exclusive. It's not a great story, but I do like getting exclusives. You may have remembered about 3 weeks ago there's the weekly press conferences with Secretary of Health, Dr. Shah. They have those on the weekly basis, and they were saying how the state was planning to open up more monoclonal antibody treatment sites. 3 weeks ago, if you wanted monoclonal antibody treatment, you would basically have to go to a clinical setting. You'd have to go to a hospital, and they were going to open it up. And what they were going to do is like partner with drugstores and some, urgent care clinics. because there was a procedure that was being done that instead of doing it as an IV, it could be done as 4 injections. My understanding is 2 of those 4 injections go in the abdomen. I'd rather just have the vax, but okay, if that's where you want to roll. The plans are hobbled, and what we heard today from Charlie Boisner, who's the spokesperson with the Washington Department of Health. Washington is not looking at establishing pop-up clinics like other states have adopted as a method to administer MAB, which is those monoclonal treatments. If you don't know what monoclonal antibodies are, they're lab-engineered immune system proteins. They use just about the same processes as the mRNA vaccine. They use HEK293 cells, the fetal, they're not fetal stem cells, they're clonal cells. Yes, if you get real pedantic, you can go, they came from a fetus in 1973, thousands of generations of cells, they're clones, whatever. But if you're going down that rabbit hole, and that's your reason for not taking the COVID vaccine, you better not be looking for monoclonal antibodies either, because they use that. I'm just calling it out. They're really effective for people that have early COVID. They're in that first 7 to 9 days of being symptomatic. They're sick, but they're not getting progressively sick, and they don't require oxygen. After about 7 to 9 days, the treatment is counterindicated. What that means is you don't want to do it because it'll make you worse. What they do is they supercharge your immune system. They give it a burst of immunity that lasts about a week. And it's kind of like calling in a strike team versus building up your immunity with a vaccine. It gives you like a 1 week of Rambo running through your body, going kill all the COVID. The problem is, if you have COVID and you're still very symptomatic after a week, they want to suppress your immune response. They don't want you to get into a cytonic storm where your immune system goes crazy and basically just kills everything in sight, including you. So monoclonal antibodies are really effective. There's a lot of data that shows that. It's believed to get 10,000 people out of hospital in Florida. It went to 40,000 people. And you may remember that a number of southern states set up pop-up clinics. They had them in libraries and schools, other government buildings. There was the video and the first thing where it was the people that were literally laying on the floor that, quite frankly, I can't believe that they gave them the treatment if they were that sick. And quite frankly, that I'm surprised that both had good outcomes, but I'm not a doctor, so okay. And then anyway, what they want to do here in Washington is stay this course of, and again, Charlie Boisner said to us, we're focusing on engaging with partners at the local level and either the appropriate infrastructure in place or interest in establishing this infrastructure to facilitate these treatments. Wasn't an on-camera interview, by the way. Otherwise, we'd roll a video. And I talked about what's happened in Florida. So what's the problem, right? We talked about doing this 3 weeks ago. The partnerships haven't happened. Like, what's going on? 7 southern states used up 70% of the entire national supply of monoclonal antibodies in about 7 weeks. Last week, Health and Human Services, Federal Health and Human Services Department, what they were doing is they were just letting medical facilities or hospitals go, just order the stuff in your own. You don't have to go through this. The reason they did that is these have actually been available for a while, and they weren't being used by a lot of places. Now, one run of monoclonal antibodies, costs the American taxpayer $2,100. One of vaccine costs the American taxpayer about $4. But you go ahead and tell me how Big Pharma is getting rich on vaccines. I'll wait. And as I said, Florida did 40,000 of. Oh, and who was one of the top donors who would benefit from all that? Ron DeSantis, Florida. I digress. So there's no supply. So Health and Human Services said last week, all right, We're bringing it back in-house. We're going back to what we were doing back at the start of the year and in the late 2020, and we're going to control the distribution. So now what has to happen is the states have to go and say, we need this much. The federal government is going to look at number of new cases, amount of hospitalizations that are going on, and if the state had an existing previous supply, how much of that supply did they use? And then you have to do that on Monday. The state will get told on Tuesday how much they get, and then it arrives on Thursday. Repeat that process every week. We're not the only state. Like, I don't, we're getting singled out because we're blue. No, we're not. And likewise, like, people, they're doing this to make Ron DeSantis look bad. Yeah, I got news for you. The taxpayers in Tennessee that also are in the same boat as us, people in Idaho that are in the same boat as us, people in Oregon in the same boat as us, people in Montana, North Dakota, Utah. By the way, Utah is like on the brink of just, all those states would love to get their hands on monoclonal antibodies too. Alabama's complaining about this. Texas is complaining about this. If the people of the southern states got vaxxed, we wouldn't have to use up all the supply. And we maybe could have just, like for Idaho, even though it's just complete shit show there, they'd have another bullet in the gun, so to speak. So I've explained what's going to happen with that. What a federal official told us was given this reality, we must work to ensure a supply of these life-saving therapies remain available for all states and territories and not just for some. It's a statement we got from Federal Health and Human Services today. We asked Washington State Department of Health, their view in this, and what they had to say was, while we're anticipating to experience an impact in our supply of MAB, monoclonal antibody products, we are not able to increase our allocation requests at this time. While this change has presented a challenge to navigate, we will work through the process and develop a system that will allow for effective and equitable distribution. So there you go. Thank you, Florida. Thank you. Thank you, Florida and Texas and Alabama, and Mississippi, and Georgia. Anyway, we've covered that one. Let's keep moving. Washington State Department of Health is considering adding test sites in Spokane. We've been in press conferences. We've heard from other reporters who are asking these questions that people are saying they can't get tested. There's a lot of complaints in our area. You can get tested, but you're having to wait 1, 2, or 3 hours. I've had people come to me with that complaint, and quite frankly, I haven't responded or brushed it. I kind of brushed it off because it's like there's people in the eastern half of the state, and the northern part of the state, and the southwest part of the state who can't get a test at all. And the state guidance of, go to the store and buy a test. Eastern Wash, yeah, good luck with that. Good luck finding a test on the store shelf. The challenge they said that they're having on opening up these new test sites in Spokane is staffing. They said it's not equipment, it's not test resources, it's staffing. They might be able to open it up in about 3 weeks. So we'll see what happens there. 2 adult children blasted Tucker Carlson for playing a role in the death of their unvaccinated father. The woman here, I'm looking for her name, is Katie Lane. They never said what community that Katie Lane was in. I have a feeling she didn't want to because she's going after Tucker Carlson, which means that every chud in the country will now come after her and send her awful things like they're glad her father's dead and that she's a crisis actor and they're coming for you next because that's what chuds do. But I digress. What she had to say is that he wasn't by any means far right. He was right in the middle. He consumed media from both sides. That's what she says. And he just had too much misinformation. And he was like, I don't know if I should do it. And part of the stuff that he absorbed was watching some Tucker Carlson. So there you go. His final words on FaceTime before they went to intubate him, he wished he got vaccinated. How many times have you heard this story? we're going to get into the situation at a school level and the local schools, but I'm going to tell you this. If you're like going, gosh darn it, Lake Washington is a dumpster fire, Bellevue, and what's the numbers, and there's people with COVID. Oh, I don't know if dumpster fire is the right word to describe what's going on in the Medicine Lake School District in Eastern Washington. But let me drop some truth on you. Medicine Lake School District in Eastern Washington has 1,974 students in the whole school district. I'm pretty sure in Kirkland we have more than one school that has that more than that number of students in the school. If you're not familiar with Medicine Lake, it's you could call it a suburb of Spokane. It's a longish drive for that part of the state. Over the weekend, their district superintendent, Tim Ains, put up a message going, hey, hi, everybody. Just thought we'd let you know that first 3 weeks of school are, we finished the first 3 weeks of school. And, it hasn't been that bad. There's been some problems, mostly at the high school. And we've had 290 cases, mostly at the high school, involving students, staff, and family members. How many cases was that again? It was tonight. Is it what? Stop mumbling. 290. 290. The school district has 1,974 students. There have been 290 confirmed COVID cases in 21 days. Among students, staff, and the family members of the students. I'm going to read what he had on the website. In the first 3 weeks of school, we've tested approximately 290 people, including staff and students. Not that they said basically 290 people positive. This has put a constraint on our supply of testing kits. And we are waiting for more to arrive within a few days. Now, I will say this. This is not the school district's fault. However, if you have the opportunity to test your symptomatic student through an outside provider, that would be greatly appreciated and beneficial to you getting the results sooner than later. Remember, I was just talking about how in Spokane, there's not enough test sites and they want to open up 2 more test sites, but it's going to take at least 3 weeks because they don't have the people. And it's fallen apart in Eastern Washington. We're going to get into more of it. Sometimes I'm just like, I hate it here. Hey, let's talk about the Seahawks. Hopefully I won't get in trouble with the NFL. 68,500 heartbroken fans got to watch the Seahawks blow a 15-point lead and drop their home opener against the Tennessee Titans, who are better than what I thought. And among those 68,500 screaming fans, if you watched the game on TV, you may have noticed that a lot of those fans forgot a required accessory. Yeah. Mask wear was close to non-existent. Now, yes, they were all supposed to show proof of vaccination or a negative PCR test. I hope that the percentage of fake vaccination credentials and fake tests was really low. We'll see what happens. What do we know on like numbers on similar events to this? This could get us 75 or 100 cases. That's what we kind of know. It'll take 2 weeks to figure it out. Don't know. We'll see. Travel advisories, because I haven't talked about this, because we added another place. We are continuing our travel advisories for Spokane. Now I am going to sound like I'm going to do the school announcements. Recreational travel has been closed in the following counties: Spokane, Lincoln, Yakima, Clittitat, Benton, Franklin, and Walla Walla. The Walla Walla Washington Company of Walla Walla, Washington. We are recommending don't go to those counties because if you were to have a medical emergency, there is a chance that you will receive inadequate medical treatment. They are not operating at crisis standards of care, but they are absolutely maxed out. And that's why we're saying it. We are also continue our travel advisories to Alaska and Idaho, and we added Montana last week. because Montana is on the brink of moving to crisis standards of care. Lincoln County, there's a different reason for there. It's because they're in a different hospital district than the other 5 counties I rattled off. It's because the number of cases there is just extreme. At 1,500 cases per 100,000 people, don't breathe the air. It's like, instead of don't drink the water, don't breathe the air. There's a lot of ivermectin breath out there is what I understand. New vaccination numbers coming out from the Washington State Department of Health across the 39 counties. We're up to 75.8% of all residents 12 and over who have received at least one dose, and just under 69% of the entire state fully vaccinated. There was a lot of movement from last week to this week. Every county showed increases in the number of people vaccinated, and a fair number of rural counties showed some pretty big jumps. 1%, 1.5% change week over week. I guess people want to keep their jobs. Who'd have thought? Ursinate Sport Ball. Kimberly's in the house. Lauren's in the house. We looked at some numbers here because we have several factoids that we're dropping tonight. We looked at the county that has the highest vaccination rate. That's San Juan County. They're 72.9% fully vaccinated. And there have 57.7 new cases per 100,000 people. San Juan County is almost to normal. Normal is 25. Their 7-day moving average is 6. There is almost no COVID in San Juan County. Most vaccinated. It's a rural county. Fair enough. Stevens County is a rural county with not very many people, and the people that are there are distributed out. They're the lowest vaccinated county in the state at 28.1% of everyone vaccinated, and they have almost 1,200 cases per 100,000. I don't know. You tell me. Does vaccination work? I don't know. Tell me. Pfizer, if you didn't see the news, they've applied for the emergency use authorization with the FDA to get approval for vaccinating children from 5 to 11 years old. I know a lot of people have been asking me, when? I'm like, I don't. So the ball is rolling now. They completed phase 2 and 3 trials. They did it in multiple countries. They used a much lower dose than what is given to people from 12 and above. 12 and above, they get like 30, 30 micro whatever. Seriously, I'm like, not my wheelhouse. I remember the 30. I just don't remember what the 30 was. Someone drop it in the comments. Drop it in the comments. That's right, this camera's backwards. Drop it in the comments. It's not backwards. It's the right way. It's the right way for you. It's backwards for me. Where was I going with that? It's 10 for 5 to 11 years old. The dosing size is 10. So they did 1/3 of the dose, and that's what they found. So it was done with 4,500 children ages 6 months to 11 years of age. United States, Finland, Poland, and Spain, 90 different clinical trial sites. And they found that it worked really well. Now, there's something I want to call out. I want to equip everybody here, because I can guarantee you the nattering nabobs of the internet are going to be running wild with misinformation. They're going to be running wild in this one. Because if you go to the Pfizer site has a statement on there under emergency use authorization. Emergency use of the product has not been approved or licensed by FDA, but has been authorized by the FDA under an emergency use authorization to prevent corona disease 2019, COVID-19, for use in individuals 12 years of age and older. Aha! See, they lied. It's not approved. They admitted it. I'm going to equip you here. If you go 2 paragraphs up from that statement, the statement explains that the, I don't even know how you pronounce this. Comer. I know, like, there was a whole thing with reporters struggling with this. Comernati? Like, where did they come up with this name? It's a terrible name. Comernati, that is the commercial brand name, because when the vaccine became fully approved, the fully approved version is distributed under the name Comernati. And if you go 2 paragraphs up in that Pfizer statement, it explains that the FDA-approved Pfizer vaccine called Comirnaty is FDA authorized for individuals 16 years of age and older. And it also goes on to explain that you can use Comirnaty or the Pfizer-BioNTech COVID-19 vaccine interchangeably, because they are essentially the same formulas, and that Comirnaty already has emergency use authorization approved for people 12 and 15 years old. So there you go. When? I don't know. Right? There's a C, there's a typo. I already let everybody know. It's like there's going to be typos in this friggin' thing. But you know what? It's mocking me. We're going to fix it right here on the live. And while I'm waiting for the page load, I'm going to look at your comments here for a minute. Emily's in the house. Thank you for popping in. Oh my God. Commerce and Illuminati. Comrade Naughty. Oh, I like that. Comrade Naughty. Reporting for duty. I got to fix this typo. Because I just know people are going to be like roasting me. There's a typo. And actually, that might be a... Yeah, there we go. Updating. You kidding? Who runs this show? Comernati. I don't know. All right, we'll keep rolling. I got to get back to my point here. We did Tucker Carlson. We talked about the kids. We talked about the locals. Let's talk about the hospital status. 21.3%. Everybody in the hospital in Washington State fighting COVID. We're still over 20%. 20% is indicative of a hospital system that is under stress, under quote-unquote severe stress. ICU, 98% of all beds occupied statewide. 36, more than 1 to 3 people in ICU are fighting COVID. Those, again, are signs of a hospital system under severe stress. 7-day rolling average of hospital admission rate for new COVID patients down to 174. It was as high as 193. So it is continuing to go down. This is a good sign. I'm a little worried because, like, we had a dip and now it's come up and it's gone to this plateau. So I'm a little worried. Like, what does that mean? 1,578 COVID patients statewide. 277 on ventilators. That is the second highest number that we've seen. It is a 6% drop in 7 days in the total number of patients, the 1,578 number. So we had a 9% drop last week. We've seen a 6% drop, or 2 weeks ago, 6% drop now. Yay, it's getting better. It's kind of a bad reason why the numbers are going down. There's 2 things. Elective surgeries have fundamentally ground to a halt across the state. Not all hospitals, everything is, but 2 hospitals in Spokane are emergency surgery only. Hospitals in the South Hospital region in the counties I keep blabbering about, they're really selective what they're doing. And a lot of hospitals in Western Washington are also very selective. They are generally pushing off any procedure that isn't a day procedure, and they are really like, can we wait if a person is going to have to spend time in ICU after surgeries? So the first thing is, you got a lot of people that would be in the ICU or in an acute care bed right now but can't get in. That's number one. And the second thing is our death numbers are going up. They're going up a lot. So what we're seeing is attrition, and we're seeing, remember, the ICU numbers aren't changing, right? 36% is actually going up. That percentage is going up. We've been at 88 to 92% ICU utilization for weeks. And the prognosis isn't good. If you get in the ICU and you get on a ventilator, it's not good. Evergreen Health released their weekly report, 38 COVID patients, Kirkland Hospital. That's down 1. It's basically flat. 76% everybody in the hospital is unvaccinated. 75% of ICU patients are unvaccinated. 5% on ventilators. Of the 8 vaccinated patients that are in the hospital, 75, 6 out of those 8 are 60 years or older. And 3 of them are 80 or over. So these are probably people with multiple comorbidities, and these are probably people that are immunocompromised, because that's where most of the breakthrough cases are coming from, people that are over 70 years old. So exposed by somebody not vaccinated. All eyes really in the medical community is on Eastern Washington and what's happening there. And, you know, what they're saying is we're not a crisis standards of care, we're in a crisis. They're trying to ride this line of like not scaring people. Spokane, they had 221 patients in the hospital. They've been bumping on that number now for a couple of weeks. There were rumors flying around over the weekend that people from Idaho were kind of coming across the border and flooding emergency rooms. We could find nothing to support the veracity of those reports. We didn't see anything today to support the veracity of reports. The other thing I'll say, you know, I spend a lot talking about hospitals are full. Look, you have a legit medical emergency. You're watching the show right now, and like you got the you know, your chest is tight, you can't breathe, it hurts, and you get a tingling sensation going down your arm. For the love of God, go to the hospital. Don't tough it out here. No, go to the hospital. What they're asking for is don't do stupid shit like these 2 guys did down in south part of Seattle yesterday and lit off a very large firework by accident because it was sitting by the stove and the fuse got lit and it blew up in their apartment, and some person was holding a towel over with it and apparently did a lot of damage to their hands. This is the thing. This is the thing they don't want to see in emergency rooms. Local schools. Let's talk about this. Bellevue, one more school. Lake Washington School District, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 schools with cases or quarantines added from over the weekend. And over in the North Shore School District, there were no schools added because practically every school in the North Shore School District has COVID cases in this point. Generally speaking, all of the school districts, there's been nothing that's gone like, whoa, we've got a super spreader event or we've got uncontrolled spread in a school. There's nothing like that going on right now. There is one school in the North Shore School District that made me go, and that is Bothell High School. Bothell High School has 9 confirmed cases of COVID in that school. 7 are faculty. Get friggin' vaxxed. There's no information on if they're unvaxxed or vaxxed. And I guess if we slight statistically, they could be vaxxed. They're going to be unvaxxed. You do the math, there's probably 1 or 2 that are vaxxed. For the love of God, get vaxxed. They're friggin' kids. These are kids. 2 kids, 7 faculty. Bothell High School. The North Shore School District currently has 7 schools with 5 or more confirmed COVID cases. Full stop. There is nothing to indicate or prove that these cases were caused by widespread community transmission within the school or at a school sanctioned event. So, but gosh darn it. Wear a mask, get vaxxed, give a crap. North Shore School District is starting to do what they call pooled batch testing. They started it today. They are testing all students now in the district. They can get tests. But they're a well-funded school district. I'm willing to bet that the Medicine Lake School District is probably not very well-funded. Pago's a town, Stephanie. Pago's a town. It's a city. We're going to get into. We screwed up Pago Pago. I'm going to get into it. Yeah, milk crate challenge. Don't be doing the milk crate challenge. Don't be doing the destroy the school bathroom challenge. Jesus Christ. Just go back to eating Tide Pods, okay? I'm going to get clout by putting on TikTok us destroying the school bathroom. No, you're going to get a criminal record. What pool batch testing is that everyone gets tested. There's no names. They put all their Q-tips because they don't do the up the nose thing. They're doing the thing. It's the rapid tests. They all get tested in a batch. If something comes up positive, they know the room that it comes, and then they have to get real tests to figure out who messed it up for everybody. So they're starting that. They were doing it last year. They're doing it again. Hey, Lake Washington School District, Bellevue School District. I think it's a good idea. Just putting it out there. Parents can opt out. You don't ever share. Oh, no, we actually linked on there to the form. We're interested in reporting the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. So help us, Flying Spaghetti Monster. But yes, we actually direct link to there. If you have a parent in the North Shore School District and they're not sticking a Q-tip on my kid's nose, there's a form to opt out. Why you'd want to opt out, I don't want to do. I don't know why, but fine, whatever. We got a lot of questions when we started showing the demographic data for vaccination by zip code. We got a lot of questions. Because one of the things that popped up in that data is in Kirkland in particular, there's the north half of Kirkland, there's the south half of Kirkland, and the south half is 98033, and the north half is 98034. And the southern half is 98033, and the north half is 9034. Sorry about that. And 98033, the southern half of Kirkland, is much more vaccinated than the north half of Kirkland. And we're not talking a little bit. As a matter of fact, if we look at the vaccination rates in Kenmore, Bothell, I'm doing the school readout. Hey, these schools are close. Kenmore, Bothell, Woodinville, Kirkland, Redmond, and Bellevue. If we look at the vaccination rates there, 98034, the north half of Kirkland, has the lowest vaccination rate of any of those zip codes. It really kind of jumps out. And I want to be clear, low is almost 85%. Wait a minute. I know someone probably might be going, because I know I have people with good memories. What do you mean 85%? They were almost 87% last week. We're going to get into that. I found the answer because I wrote a long answer. It was, and I kind of looked at it. It was like, is it race? It could be a little bit of that. Is it income disparity? Is it educational level? A little bit. There's nothing that jumped out. I found it. It's on the website. King County provides a map that you can go, and you can configure it in a lot of different ways, and they've added some new reports. And you can look at things by zip code. This is how we got this information. I'm like, oh, cool. We could see how vaccinated by the zip codes. You can now break it down by age. So I looked. I'm like, because one of the things, because we're doing the school update, and I'm like, let's look at the vaccination rates for 12 to 19-year-olds. Whoa. 12 to 19-year-olds in the southern part of Kirkland, 98033, 90.7%. Way to go. And that's one dose. That's not fully vaxxed. That's at least one dose. In 98034, the northern half, 65.7%. It's just stunning. And what's really fascinating is if you drew a line from Juanita Bay on Lake Washington, you drew a line west and you drew a line east for children, 12 to 19, because those are the ages that are, can get vaccinated, the vaccination rate plummets north of that line. It's really amazing. Zip codes and shoreline, the one up against the lake is 76.2%. The one that's in the I-5 corridor and closer to, and 99, 61.1%. But you go down to the north parts of Seattle, it's over 95% for 12 to 19-year-olds when you cross when you cross the line into Seattle. Every zip code. It's really amazing when you look at the map, and that carries all the way over. If we look at Kenmore is at 70.2%. You look at Bothell, it's 72 is at 72%. I'm sorry, Kenmore was 70.2. Bothell 72%. And then if you look at parts of Woodinville, 65.1 and 72.2. So the 98034 for teens, adolescents, 12 to 19, is one of the lowest rates of vaccination on the east side, on the entire east side. So there's your answer. The kids aren't vaccinated. And Redmond, over 95%. Bellevue, depends on the zip code, 94.2% or over 95%. Get vaxxed. Please. You love the flying spaghetti monster reference. You mean to get vaccinated? I'm seeing Sound Law Connoisseur. Like, to get vaccinated, you can just walk into almost any drugstore or grocery store in the entire county at this point. Let's get into the national roundup. Sad news tonight. We've crossed a grim milestone, 675,000 people. That's more than who died in the Spanish flu in 1918. Now, I don't know, like 9 months ago or 10 months ago, the spin from it's not a big deal, right? The spin meisters were, it's not as bad as the Spanish flu. Look, 300,000 people, whatever. 675,000 died, right? Because they keep moving the goalposts. So now we're there. We got to that goalpost. So there's probably going to be two talking points. One, it's all Biden's fault. That's going to be talking. I'm not happy with Joe Biden. We're going to talk a little about that tonight. One, it's all Joe Biden's fault. And the second, number two, is, well, there was a lot less people in 1918. So if you extrapolate it out, you'd have to have like 2 million people die to be as bad as then. Like, that's some grand achievement. The 675,000 number is terrible. And I'm going to tell you why it's terrible, and why as a country we should just be going, God, we suck over this. Yes, the United States population is almost 3 times larger than what it is in 1918. That's a factual statement. And in 1918, they didn't have mechanical ventilators. They didn't have blood transfusions and blood typing. They didn't have much in the form. They didn't have penicillin. They certainly didn't understand what a virus was. They didn't have protocols for PPE. They had no capacity to research. They did not have electron microscopes and computers and models. They didn't have the communication networks that we have. They didn't have the cleanliness standards that we have. They didn't have the air filtration just in our homes because we're spoiled Americans, and in our cars and in the stores and where we work that they had. Had the same flu, Spanish flu, right? If we could, not right now, pull it out. Oh my God, no, not right now. But if we could pull it out of a jar and COVID wasn't going around, it would be terrible. A very, very gnarly flu. I don't believe it would be anywhere close to 675,000 people that died. Because look what happens in a bad flu season. A bad flu season here in the like a really bad flu season is 50,000 people. That's a really bad flu season. So you would have to go 12x. I just don't see it happening. So I think the number is bad. And the other thing is that they didn't have the serology. So it is more likely in 1918 that somebody died from the flu, but they didn't have flu, but it got blamed on the flu, than it is in 2021 of somebody dying of COVID and it being blamed for something else. That's the other thing. So the numbers, I believe, and I think it's a mixed bag, because if you get like into rural areas and small areas, there's people that probably died and just never even got formally counted. So anyway, that's my spin on it. We're going to open up travel again to 33 countries beginning in November. They haven't given an exact date. People are vaccinated and they have to prove they're vaccinated. It's going to include most European countries. It's going to include Britain and Ireland, because they're not European. They're on their own. It's going to include South Africa, China, India, Brazil, and here's one, Iran. What? Iran's on the okay list. I think their COVID situation is under control there. Well, that's weird. I'm sure in Telegram there's lots of chats and Parler going on in that tonight. In contrast, if you want to go to Canada or Mexico, yeah, they extended that travel on that stuff there too. Courtney, we need to figure. I'm just so freaking busy. We got to figure out the Kent thing. Anyway, they're going to be doing the traffic there. Alaska, we reported this over the weekend. It's bad. It's really bad in Alaska. You can go and read the update from Saturday. I'm not going to go ahead. I'm just going to kind of gloss over there. There's 16 ICU beds left in the entire state Monday morning, which is a little bit of improvement. But again, the reason it got better is because people are dying over there. Their new case rate statewide is 780 per 100,000. They had 2,054 new confirmed cases over the weekend. The state doesn't have an ECMO machine. They don't have one. Their largest hospital is in Anchorage. It's already in crisis standards of care. And they don't even have a crisis standards of care plan. They don't have one. They set up a committee. It met for the first time today. Better late than never. We're going to get to Pago Pago in a minute. I'm going to skip Pago Pago for the moment. Idaho, same thing. It's just, it's just spiraling and it's getting worse. And there are hospital officials that are saying that at the rate of infection, at the rate of new cases, and at the rate of mortality, Kootenai Health, I don't know if I'm saying that right. Kootenai Health in the Panhandle, 100% of all of their patients in about another 2 weeks will be COVID. There will not be a patient with anything else in that hospital, and they're really out of options. But this is what happens when you have an anti-vaxxer who calls the COVID vaccine needle rape, who doesn't believe in masks, who is aligned with America's frontline doctors, and they are setting the public health policy for the largest county in Idaho. Yeah, they basically have a lunatic setting the public health policy. It's working so well. Montana, you got one hospital on crisis standards of care there. You have two other hospitals saying they're preparing. Missoula's hospitals are just filled to the top. Governor Greg Gianforte demonstrating that rugged individualism and self-accountability that Republicans cherish so much, has formally requested from FEMA to start sending Montana's patients to the VA hospital there. Thank you for your service on behalf of a grateful nation. I don't know, maybe tell your people get friggin' vaxxed and stop politicizing a disease, just putting it out there. Oregon, the news is actually looking pretty good. Their rate of infection is about half of Washington now, 281 for every 100,000 people. Hospitalizations are down, new cases are down, and deaths are down. So things are starting to look better. But again, kind of what's happened here is it's kind of run its course. Let's talk about Pago Pago. Like I had someone go, "What's Pago Pago?" There was, up until this weekend, only a couple of places on Earth where there's never been a COVID case. I didn't look up Vanuatu or Vanuatu or Vana what anyway, I think Vanuatu, or I'm saying it wrong. I don't think they've had a COVID case. There hasn't been one in Antarctica, and there hasn't been one in America's Samoa. America's Samoa is a U.S. territory. They're part of the United States. And in March of 2020, air travel, commercial Vanuatu, Micronesia's had one case. That's one, yeah. And see, that's the one I was thinking is Micronesia. So they got one. So we were down, I guess, to Micronesia, America, Samoa, and Antarctica, and Vanuatu, maybe Vanuatu. I don't think they have. Someone look it up. I don't think they've had a case. Commercial air travel had been stopped in to American Samoa since March of 2020 because of all the restrictions and the contraction of the U.S. airlines. On September 18th, the first commercial airline flight since March of 2020 took off from Honolulu, Hawaii, with 260 souls on board and landed in America Samoa in Pago Pago. And somebody started looking like they weren't feeling too well on the plane. And you know where I'm going with this. Yeah, they tested positive for COVID. So America Samoa got its first COVID case on the 18th on the very first commercial flight that they brought to this very remote U.S. territory. And let's not forget here, as a country, we can't even help Idaho. So what's going to happen to like America Samoa if the genie gets out of the bottle there, right? Because we can't even help Idaho. We can't help Alaska. Anyway. The person was visiting the U.S. mainland. What wasn't clear to me is, have they been on the U.S. mainland for the last 18 months or not? Did they get stuck? That wasn't I have questions. I want answered, and I don't know. Anyway, they flew to Honolulu. Everybody on the plane had to have a PCR test for getting on the plane. They tested negative. They landed in Pago Pago. They were positive. So they were moved to a special facility in Pago Pago. They're going to be held for 14 days right now. They don't look too terribly sick. And the fact that they're vaccinated, I mean, again, unless they're really older, have multiple comorbidities, they should be okay. What about the other 259 people? They were moved to a quarantine location to be held for 10 days before they could be released. I'm going to presume the air crew is stuck there for 10 days, and I'm going to presume that the airplane is also stuck there for 10 days. So you know where this is going, right? Because you had 260 people in a tube of aluminum for hours. And even if they were supposed to wear masks, we know that the mask compliance on the planes aren't great. You're going to take it off to drink. You're going to take it off to eat. Let me pull it down so I can talk to you. Yeah. So Three more positive on Sunday, because fucking of course. So yeah, we screwed up Pago Pago. We screwed up Pago Pago. We can't have nice things. Other thing about Alaska, there's this video of this dude. It's on TikTok. He has like the porn star mustache. I guess he's in the Marine Corps. He's got like blonde hair, but he has like the haircut and the mustache of like a 1983 porn star. If you watch porn in the 80s, you know exactly what I'm talking about. You know the mustache. And I'm not talking the Ron Jeremy, that dirtbag mustache. I'm talking Anyway, he's been blowing up on TikTok, for his, I'm going to get kicked out because I'm not going to get the shot. And just like, dude, Jesus Christ. You took the peanut butter shot. You probably got the anthrax shot, which isn't approved by the FDA. It's only emergency use authorized. The anthrax shot. If you've ever been deployed, you've gotten so many friggin' shots where you were just like told to just shut up and bend over and give me your arm. It's good for you. Don't ask questions, Marine. Just eat these crayons. That's joke in the Marine Corps. Anyway, Elmsworth Air Force Base. I know it's a joint base over there now. They've had to go up to Health Alert Bravo. Candidly, I don't know what it means. Doesn't sound good. We're at Health Alert, Health Status Alert Bravo. Okay. Is that better or worse than Alpha or Charlie? And what is that? Because it didn't explain what that means. And they're telling people on the base, like, you shouldn't be going to places where they don't wear masks and they don't social distance. And there's other restrictions, I guess, with this thing, Bravo. Look, if you align with the political right, if you think China is our mortal enemy, this is a really important Air Force base. This is a really important Air Force base. This is the tip of the spear. This is literally like, if the shit were ever to go down, this is going to be some of the very first U.S. forces going into the shit. And we're jeopardizing our national security because we won't get a friggin' vax. And there's just no other way to put it. There's no, and I know somebody's like, oh, national security is gross. I'm trying to talk their language. You know, because if you really believe like China's coming to destroy us at any moment, I got news for you. Those Chinese pilots, they didn't say, yeah, I'm not getting vaxxed, kiss my ass. They're vaxxed. You know, if you're coughing up and in your own juices, you're not going to do anybody good. Well, that's not true. You know, I seem to remember a whole carrier battle group that became mission ineffective because COVID tore through an entire aircraft carrier. It sickened thousands, and some of our sailors died, I believe 2 or 3. And it knocked out a whole carrier group. And that happened on Trump's watch, by the way. Let's bring that up. Chicka chicka bow bow, chicka bow bow, chicka chicka bow bow, chicka bow bow. Carl, I just saw your comment. Chicka chicka bow bow, hello, the plumber's here. Oh my! Yes, join us. Yes, join us. Chicka bow bow, chicka bow bow, chicka chicka bow bow, chicka bow bow, chicka chicka bow bow, chicka bow bow. Tupperware lady here it is. Oh my! Please join us. Yes, join us. Chicka chicka bow bow. Okay, enough of that. Coming up next on Cinemax, 5 little people in a vat of Thousand Island dressing. Brian walks into. It'd be great if somebody clipped that. All right, let's go over some of the other stories I want to talk about real quick, and we're going to end this here. Trump still isn't president. Justice for so. The paranoid who believe that the election was stolen and that Mike Lindell and Cyber Ninjas is going to show us any minute now. 2 more weeks. We just need 2 more weeks. 2 more weeks. It's like the movie Better Off Dead from the 80s. Instead of $2, it's 2 weeks. Or oh, that's right. That's right. Oh gosh. Oh my God. I can't think of the friggin' movie. The Schwarzenegger movie. 2 weeks. 2 weeks. 2 weeks. 2 weeks. Total Recall. That's it. Total Recall. Exactly. 2 weeks. Trump's still not president. Justice for J6 was like a total flop because the paranoid, I'm not getting that because it's microchip, and I'm going to go ahead and tell people that on my phone because I don't want to be tracked. I'm going to use Telegram and Signal because it's secure. They can't track my thoughts. So they got so paranoid that it was like, it's just a setup, this Justice for J6 thing, and Matt Brainerd's in it, and they're just going to round us all up like they did on the 6th. Don't go. And then Donald Trump tells them, don't go, it's a setup. See, it's a setup. So like 450 showed up. So I'm sure that people like Ethan Nordine were really feeling the love to find out that nobody showed up to protest for their freedom. And, basically like 1% of them managed to get arrested. 4 of them, like 2 of them on weapons violations. 1 had an outstanding warrant. Fine, upstanding Americans they are. Lovely. It just was a disaster. Anyway, Trump's not president. 2 weeks. Wait and see. Mike Lindell did this really bizarre telethon thing where he was selling pillows for 3 days. He gave some interview. He couldn't even remember he literally couldn't remember what the date was. That boy's cheese has slipped off his cracker. So we just say that. There is a horrible story out of Texas tonight. There are some pictures that have been taken. I don't know if there's videos. I've seen the pictures where Border Patrol agents on horses were using whips to corral Haitian undocumented immigrants. We have it on our Twitter and tagged like they're really going to see it, Kamala Harris or the president. Like you all said that this shit was going to stop. That you're gonna come, and we got a plan, and we're gonna work the plan, and this shit's gonna stop. All right. On the border, it's friggin' screwed up with Trump. But when Trump was in charge, we didn't have this. So where's the friggin' plan? And I get that there's a lot more people coming over the border. Economic problems, South America and Central America. You have dictatorships in Nicaragua, and there's tens of thousands of people leaving Nicaragua. Dictatorships in Nicaragua. You've got dictatorship in Venezuela. You have COVID has really hurt the economies. Like Costa Rica, because there's no tourists. There's no economy in Costa Rica right now because they're all tourism. And gang violence and climate crisis. There's been hurricanes, there's been fires, crops have failed, and we have this flood of people who are coming to the border. I mean, I get it, right? It's a big friggin' problem. But you said you were going to solve this problem. You said that we were going to treat people with humanity. My government was corralling human beings, riding horses, cracking whips like it was the original Charlton Heston Planet of the Apes movie. And this was done in my fucking name? No. So what? Is this the plan? Democrats are going to go ahead and screw this up so bad so that we're going to put a white nationalist government in 2025. Is that the plan? I mean, just tell us. Just tell us. If that's what it is, then that's fine. Because some of us are then going to figure out how to get out of this country. If that's what the plan is. Because it sure looks like that's what the plan is to me. That's enough of that. I'm going to get myself all friggin' fired up. We got another one. Didn't run video clip on that because a couple of the channels are just getting real sensitive and everything was getting reported on YouTube. So I'm not running the video out. Rockland, California. You can find this video on social media out of Rockland, California. But I'm going to tell you, this video's rough. So what's on the video? Cell phone video. Thank you, America. This is your best tool for fighting when police do things that shouldn't do. There's an arrest going on. The suspect is clearly compliant in the video. They are on the grounds. They are following orders. The officer pulls his gun out for a moment. And I don't know if the people filming yell, but somebody else is like, "Why did you pull the gun?" He kind of looks around. He like realizes he's being watched, and then he holsters the gun. Sure looks like he had some intent in his head there that he was planning. So what does he do then? He goes over to the suspect and starts torturing him. There's no other way to describe it. He's torturing this suspect, trying to literally break his arm, and it's all on film. Authorities are investigating. God, sometimes I hate it here, and this one here is gross. We talked about Pago Pago. Last thing here I want to talk about is this Gabby Petito story. I'm probably going to piss some people off. Seriously, I'm probably going to piss some people off. I think we all knew how this one was going to end, and I don't think anybody here is surprised. And we also know we don't have confirmation that Gabby, but I mean, basically they've all but come out and said it, right? They're waiting for the forensic confirmation. They're still looking for Brian. There's a lot of people that believe that Brian's probably yeeted himself somewhere in a Florida swamp, unalived himself. That's the belief, but don't know. The family was let out of the house. They searched the house as a crime scene. There was nothing that I saw in the news that said that his parents are persons of interest or suspects, or in any other way of trying to cover up. I talked about this Rockland story where you have citizens recording things. And I want to close tonight talking about Gabby, because I think there's 4 lessons out of this. And yes, of course, was a Carla, Gabby was not important. Gabby, any life is important. I know, like, somebody could just grab that. He said Gabby's not important. Every life is important. Gabby was 22 or 23, wanted to be a social media influencer. This is one of the things I want to talk about. Her and her boyfriend going to do the van life thing, right? And they're going to travel the country in van and document their travels on social media. That was the plan. They spent, close to 4 or 5 months in the van together. They both have mental illness. They never get into what the mental illness is. We know that Gabby had self and social, whatever, that she has OCD. And it sounds like she had OCD pretty significantly. We don't know about that. They were engaged. They were high school sweethearts. They've been together for years. Both families knew each other. And then Gabby disappeared. And Brian came back from this trip alone all the way back to Florida, right? And last time people saw them, I think the last time they were seen, I want to say that people knew they were in Wyoming. I want to say that. In just the span of a couple of days, like, he death drove, bad term, but what I mean by death, he just probably drove straight through, right back to Florida. And then everyone's kind of like, "Where's Gabby?" He's like, "I'm not talking." And I doubt he hired a lawyer. I figure mom and dad hired a lawyer, and the lawyer said, "Don't say nothing." So anyway, Gabby was murdered. We believe Gabby was murdered. We believe Gabby's body's been found, but we don't know. It was located because the original concern is like, her body could be anywhere. It's like her body could be in the Utah desert. Why it's like a few days ago, it was like, we may never find her. What happened was there was another social media influencer, and they were just driving and had the cameras running in their vehicle, and they were doing post-production. They were just reviewing their video. They knew Gabby was missing because it was all over social media. And in doing that post-production, they had a video clip of their of their van because they're living the van life. And the van that was in that video clip, it was very clear, like they were driving slow and it's not far away. It's pretty close to them. It had Florida plates. It didn't have hubcaps. It was white. It had, I guess, like these stickers of a flip-flop on the back. And on the dashboard, there was a hat, and that was a hat that Gabby would wear. And so that video apparently like blew up like Friday night and Saturday on social media. Now, I don't know if the FBI went, I don't know if the FBI said, we'd like to talk to you, or if the people reached out to the FBI or other people. I don't know. But on Saturday night, very early Sunday morning, the area where that van was seen was announced that it was going to be closed. It's outside of Grand Tetons National Park, but it's a national forest, and there's campgrounds and stuff in there, dispersed campgrounds. It was announced it's being closed for a survey. We have to do a survey, and we're closing and clearing out that area. And then, of course, a whole bunch of FBI agents and police started showing up there. And they're looking for Gabby, and they found her like that. So it's because of the social media stuff, and probably from cell phone records, because they got access to the cell phone records to track the cell towers they pinged. So they were in a dispersed camping area in Wyoming. I doubt there was cell coverage there, but they probably would have had the terminating point and then the point when Brian, the fiance, came back. Yeah, it really is. It's just amazing of what's happened. Well, that's part of what I want to talk about. I said there's 4 things here. People ask me to explain the story. I want to explain what the story is. And Borfus, to your point, we already called that part out on our Twitter channel about, Wyoming, how many missing, like this happened all in Wyoming, and there's 701 missing people in the state of Wyoming right now, and mostly BIPOC and mostly women. And what's going on with them? This is the parts I want to talk about. They were stopped in Utah over what people witnessed and called about a potential domestic violence incident involving Gabby striking Brian. There were other accusations on the 911 call. Police observed the van speeding and swerving, and they pulled the van over. And there was a police stop. Now, I want to talk about this police stop. There's 1 hour and 17 minutes of continuous body cam footage. The officer that ultimately made the decisions, it's their body cam. The body cam is on before he arrives, and the body cam is not turned off until he drops Brian off at a hotel. That's number 1. So let's go. That's the way it should be. This is why I say there's some things here I want to talk about, because there's some things here I think we can learn. That's the way it should be. The second thing is, the video, when it was released, was not chopped up into little pieces. There wasn't narrative like, well, I don't know if it's Utah State, but or whatever police agent. Well, we want to craft a story, like they do in Seattle with their dramatic music and the cards, the end cards and the start cards and the text. And no, they just gave us 1 hour and 17 minutes of raw video. The only redactions they did is like date of birth, phone numbers, addresses, talk about their medical condition, and driver's license numbers. The rest of it is unredacted. You just hear everything. So the first thing they got right, the cameras were on the whole time. They were 100% transparent. We got to see everything they did. So what's lesson number 1? If every police department in America was as transparent as they were with this particular call and got the camera situation right, this would instantly help with the PR problem that the police have. And I say PR problem sarcastically, that the police have in the United States, because you would have a transparent record of this. I'm going to get to the story. So here's the second thing is, we got to see everything that what they did and what they tried to decide. They separated the two parties. Apparently, Brian had some scratches in his face, so Gabby is put in a police cruiser. Gabby's not handcuffed, but she's put in the back of a police cruiser. They go through and they interview and they talk, both of them. Supervisor's there. Female officer comes because Gabby's female. And so there's a total of 4 officers there. One of the officers there is a supervisor. I kind of hopped around, so and names are redacted, but certainly came across as like a sergeant or a supervisor. They huddled, the 4 officers. They compared, they did all their police thing. We're going to get their story and that story. We're going to divide them up, and we're going to go ahead and, do the stories match up and all. Generally, their stories pretty much, there's some stuff, but it's not like, oh, dude, you're going to jail. There's no like bad episode of Cops thing going on here. And they find out they're both got mental illness with this. And what she's saying is what kind of triggered her is apparently he like got into the back of the van and didn't take his shoes off, and it got sand back there. And if you're OCD, this is, So the police were wrestling what to do. They were like, I'm going to paraphrase. They were like, is it domestic violence? Do we have domestic violence? Yeah, this is domestic violence, but it's on the line. And then the other thing that they felt was, and hear me out to the end here, the other thing they felt was, because they had the white privilege, they flat out had the right privilege. They're in their 20s, they're young. If we do this to them, it's really just going to create a lot of problems. It's going to screw up their life. And the other factor that they considered was that they both have a degree of mental illness. And they came to the conclusion, what the officer that ultimately made the call is, this is more of a mental health call than a true domestic violence call. They were both very calm afterwards. Gabby's crying. Absolutely. Of course she's crying, right? But it's not like watching a bad episode of Cops or like, South Park and Kenny's parents are getting arrested. It's not. It's all very low key. So what the police decide to do is they're going to separate them. They're like, she's going to take the van. He's going to go to a hotel, and you two really shouldn't get together. And if we hear anything, it's not going to go well for y'all. So just go to your separate corners. You've been in this van together for too long, and you just need to hit a reset button. They ultimately felt doing this because they felt it was a mental health call. I have to call this out. This is kind of what we've wanted, right? If we, what are the things that we have demanded for police? Did we get accountability? We got accountability. Did we get we got a thorough investigation. Did they make a compassionate decision and just didn't go to handcuffs and pepper spray and arrest them both, and we'll just let a judge sort it out? Yeah, that's what they did. They did kind of what we wanted. Did they look at the whole picture? Yeah. And remember, we're looking at 2020 hindsight. We're not in the shoes of those police officers. These kids don't have criminal record. There's no history of DV. They have been together for years. So, and let's not forget too, they have this fake persona of a perfect world on social media, because clearly it wasn't perfect. And yeah, they borked the call. They borked the call. But what I firmly believe is that if we could go into some Rick and Morty universe and you could go through 100 timelines, and so you could play this scenario out again, I think in 50 of those timelines, those 2 kids are alive. And I think in 50 of those timelines, those 2 kids are dead. So this brings up the third thing. At the end of the day, the police were not equipped to make the mental health decision. And that's the third thing. They were set up to fail. I really believe that the police tried to do the right thing here. Look, you've watched me. I haven't had empathy for a police officer in the 4 years I've been on this thing. I really, truly believe they tried to do the right thing here. And it blew up in their fucking face. And I am sure that the police officer that made the decision to go, this is a mental health, let's go ahead and separate them, let go on the way, is going to question that decision for the rest of their life. And I'll tell you another thing. That cop is now at risk for becoming a bad cop because he'll never cut anyone slack again. Never. And how do you rationalize this now? Because here's the thing, right? The cop that made this decision sincerely and truly needs mental health help now. Because any person with a shred of humanity would be, holy shit, this is my fault. And because Thin Blue Line and Utah, they're not going to get the help. They're never going to cut a break on anyone again. That's the lesson. I tried to do the right thing. Look what happened. You go ahead and try to do my job. We have the benefit of hindsight here. Had there been a expert in mental health, domestic violence, right? Like somebody that's their full-time job, because like police aren't trained for years. They're trained for weeks or months. If they had access to somebody to go on there, the outcome might have been different. So this argument of defund, of having people trained to deal with this stuff, I think this is a case study that supports that. So that's number 3. Now here's number 4, which is the irony of this. I firmly believe if Brian and Gabby were BIPOC and they weren't two pretty good looking white kids in their 20s, they'd have been locked up without even thinking. They'd just gonna go to jail if they were BIPOC. But you know what? They'd be alive. They'd be alive. This is why when people are like, cop screwed up, should have arrested, it's so easy in this scenario to look at it in 2020 vision. It's so easy. Right? And it just goes to show it. I think this case highlights how difficult in certain situations it is to police. Let's look at Rockland, California. It's not difficult to understand that when a suspect is laying on the ground and they're full compliance, there is no reason to pull a gun on a suspect. That's not hard. And you realize probably where this guy was literally planning to yeet this suspect, and they're like, oh, there's people watching me. You then don't go to literally torturing that person, like literally trying to break their arm. The video is horrible. Shouldn't have to explain to Border Patrol that you don't ride horses and use whips to corral human beings like they're animals in the original Planet of the Apes movie. These things are not hard. These are easy choices. And these are the ones that we have every right as a society to go, this has to be fixed. But this one with Gabby, this one's different. This one's really different. They've been BIPOC, they're alive. And we'd be angry. Think about that. We'd be angry. If these were two, think about it. Seriously. I'm challenging how we think tonight. Think about it. If all other things were equal, 2 BIPOC kids, social media, we're going to go across the country and see America. And people were following them. And then a video comes out of them arrested, or not, well, they would end up arrested. But then a video comes out, hour and 17-minute video from the Utah, whatever police agency is this. And they're both in the thing, and she's in the backseat, and he's laughing, and they both get arrested. Because remember, what do we see? We see their perfect life on social media. That's what we're seeing. We're not seeing what's going on in the van that they don't want us to see. We're going to be outraged. We're outraged. This is an outrage. Straight up. Can't deny this. How do we rationalize this? It's like, look, I'm not like going, oh, I shouldn't do defund or no, it's not that. It's just, this is an example of where it's like, well, what would you do? What would you do not knowing how it came out? Because I'm thinking for some of us, we'd have given the hall pass. And for some of us, we would have arrested them. which would fuck up the rest of their lives. And we don't know what the end game is. It's real easy to go, well, the end game is murder. Murder, you just don't wake up and like, I'm going to murder my girlfriend today. This isn't, I love you. And then you wake up the next morning, murder. That's what cats do, right? That's a cat. Love you, human. Next morning, I'm going to claw your feet so that you bleed when you walk next to me. That's what cats do. Humans don't do that. It builds. It builds, right? If this led to murder, now in hindsight, we can go and say there was a lot of domestic violence going on. But nobody saw it until those police officers saw it for the first time on the side of the road in Utah. And what did they see? 2 white kids with an apparent idyllic, perfect life on social media with thousands and thousands and thousands of followers who just looked like they were having a bad day. Real easy to quarterback this one afterwards. Here's the lessons I want us to take away from this. 1, it's not always easy. As I said, it's real easy. You don't hold your knee on somebody's neck until they suffocate and die, and then keep your knee on your neck for 9 minutes and 26 seconds. That's easy, right? Those are the easy calls. You don't fire tear gas, Seattle Police Department, into literally thousands of peaceful protesters to deal with 20 people that are creating problems. And by the way, the federal governments and the courts and everything agreed with that assessment. These are easy ones. This wasn't easy. 1, transparency. Turn on your fucking body cams and leave them on. That's 1. Number 2, if you borked it, the world's going to find out you eventually borked it anyway. So just put it out there. If the police just did those 2 things that happened there, the world's already a better place. I'm not saying it fixes the problem. I just said the world's a better place. So that's there too. At the end of the day, Gabby and Brian were treated with respect, with compassion, and they were treated in the moment, fairly. If all suspects were treated that way, if all police interactions were that way, the world would be a better place. The third thing is the police were set up to fail because they're not trained. And we've been saying this. Anybody in defund or abolition has been saying this. They're not trained. They weren't equipped. Love you too, Dora. Good night. They're not equipped. And in a defund scenario where money would be moved to have experts to come to calls like this, there may have been a different outcome. But we don't know that because we have the power of hindsight. But the third thing is defund might have made that situation better. That's number 3. And the fourth thing that comes out of this, mental illness is real. We don't talk about it enough. We don't give it the attention and the focus and the resources that it deserves. And the last thing is social media is fucking evil. Social media is really friggin' evil. And we have to figure that out too. And we have to figure out how to, I don't know how you fix it. I don't. Anyway, those are the 4 things. Everybody, be good to each other. This is a long-ass show. I didn't want to friggin', I guess it's not as long. It's like an hour and a half. I tried to jam it in. I really appreciate everybody's comments here. Think about what I had to say about this tonight. Everybody be good to each other. It's going to be a crazy week for the next, hopefully I'll see you guys Thursday. I may be like I'd be like, yeah, you know what? I don't know. It's really, really busy with the real job. Malcontent out. I love you all. Malcontent News is a team of journalists, activists, and researchers with 3 key missions. A commitment to show an unfiltered view of the before, during, and after of key events, live, as it happens. To defend the First Amendment using our rights of a free press. And to amplify the voices of underrepresented individuals, including Black, Indigenous, persons of color, and the LGBTQIA+ community. Our team is committed to seeking equality for all and holding those in power accountable. The easiest way to support Malcontent News is to bookmark our website at malcontentnews.com, like and follow us on Facebook, subscribe to us on YouTube, and follow us on Twitter, TikTok, Twitch, Instagram, and in the Google News app. To provide financial support, you can become a patron, make a one-time donation through Venmo, or link your Twitch account to your Amazon Prime account and use your free subscription to subscribe to Malcontent News. Thank you for supporting independent journalism and for being a malcontent.
You fit the profile. You're the malcontent.
Nobody wants to hear the nonsensical ravings of a loudmouth malcontent.
He said malcontent Antifa, fuck you!
You are the biggest hypocrite on the face of the planet.
I say that you're a terrible